Bonsoir à tous. Je vous remercie beaucoup d'être là, nombreux, pour venir écouter Roger Connah. Nous l'avons invité pour plusieurs raisons. La première, c'est parce que, en tant que un des directeurs de l'école de Carleton à Ottawa, il est l'instigateur d'un studio croisé entre des étudiants qui sont d'ailleurs dans la salle, un studio de master qui porte sur le thème des dessous de la métropole, en particulier du thème des dalles. Et il y a un groupe de 8 étudiants qui viennent de Carleton et de quelques autres écoles canadiennes qui travaillent au même moment à l'école et avec quelques jurys croisés et avec des conférences communes sur le même thème. Roger Connah étant là pour assister à une présentation intermédiaire du travail des étudiants canadiens, l'école a souhaité l'inviter à venir présenter son travail, car de manière curieuse, scandaleuse et j'espère bientôt réparée, sa très très importante contribution littéraire au débat critique anglo-saxon n'est pas traduite du tout en français. Donc je me sens obligé de vous le présenter comme si vous ne le connaissiez pas, ce qui est peut-être le cas et peut-être pas le cas. On a l'habitude de dire qu'un chat a 9 vies. Je crois que Roger n'est pas du signe du chat, car il a largement dépassé les 9 vies, d'après ce que je sais. Il a à la fois travaillé pendant une quinzaine d'années avec Pietilä, le grand architecte finlandais. Il a en même temps été un des critiques de danse contemporaine les plus importants de Scandinavie. Il a dirigé une école de cinéma en Inde. Il a fait des projets au Pakistan. Il a enseigné au Texas et aujourd'hui dans l'Ontario. Il est architecte mais ne construit pas. Néanmoins, il a gagné beaucoup de concours d'architecture avec des projets qui sont des animations, des textes, des films. Il est l'auteur de plus de 20 livres dans lesquels on peut distinguer 3 familles. Il y a une famille de livres qui sont consacrés à l'architecture finlandaise, d'une manière qui ont fini par le rendre assez impopulaire à ce pays qui l'avait accueilli et dans lequel il a vécu pendant plus d'une vingtaine d'années, puisque un des livres les plus importants qu'il ait écrit sur le sujet s'appelle « The End of Finnish Architecture ». C'est un livre qui lui a été commandé par l'Ordre des architectes, et quand le livre est arrivé publié sur la table du directeur de l'Ordre, il a été immédiatement décidé de ne jamais le distribuer. Voilà. Et dans cette veine-là, Roger Connah a publié toute une série de livres qui mettent en perspective le destin de l'architecture finlandaise, obsédée par ses mythes, évidemment la figure d'Alvar Aalto, et jusqu'à la nausée, jusqu'à l'absence de distance critique et jusqu'à l'incapacité de faire face à son temps, à son époque, et à faire de la place pour des personnalités nouvelles. Ensuite, il y a toute une partie de son travail qui porte sur la question de la fiction, à la fois en relation aux arts visuels, au cinéma, à la littérature. Et puis, il y a une rencontre entre ces questions de théorie critique d'architecture et de fiction qui se fait autour de son regard sur le mouvement postmoderne nord-américain et pour lequel Roger Connah a écrit plusieurs livres qui sont à la fois des ouvrages de critique théorique extrêmement sérieux, mais formulés d'une manière totalement personnelle et complètement stimulante. J'en citerai 2 ou 3. Comment l'architecture s'est attrapée une bosse, How Architecture Got Its Hump, pardon. Qui est une sorte de description de l'infatuation de l'architecture postmoderne, en tout cas dans les années 90. Son travail sur la rencontre de tous les grands architectes postmodernes dans un hôtel au Pays de Galles pour un Noël sanglant où les architectes finissent par disparaître les uns après les autres car leur théorie ne s'ajuste pas, contrairement à leurs intentions initiales, et qui est une sorte de caricature. Vous savez que dans les années 80, il y avait tout un groupe autour d'Eisenman, de Connah, c'est-à-dire de gens qui se fréquentaient alors qu'ils n'avaient pratiquement encore rien construit et qui ont construit leurs œuvres en s'en parlant, en se les promettant. Voilà. Et donc, Roger a continué à tirer ces fils-là et à en faire des propositions fictionnelles qui, en fait, sont des décryptages extrêmement précis de ces différentes positions. Et pas dans le sens historique du terme, mais plutôt dans le sens de leur impact sur l'histoire et sur la nôtre. Donc, la fiction qui intervient comme une manière de prolonger de manière très dynamique des questions de théorie, des questions d'histoire, des questions de position et des questions de conflits intellectuels qui ne sont pas toujours faciles à valoriser. La Finlande est un endroit qui n'a pas beaucoup le goût de l'autocritique. Le Canada, où Roger Connah aujourd'hui co-dirige une école, mais un endroit aussi qui n'est pas très féru de distance critique par rapport aux manières de faire, par rapport à la profession. Voilà. Et donc, Roger est perpétuellement dans un rôle comme ça de poil à gratter et d'empêcheur de tourner en rond. C'est une conférence qui va se dire en anglais. Elle va se dire car elle ne va pas se montrer. Je crois que vous allez avoir le bonheur d'assister à une conférence sans PowerPoint. Essayez de vous souvenir quand ça vous est arrivé pour la dernière fois. Et je voudrais mettre au vote la nécessité qu'il y ait un peu de traduction ou pas. C'est-à-dire qu'il y a une dimension littéraire, ça va être très dit, très lu et bien lu. Est-ce que vous avez besoin que je fasse des petites... que j'intervienne toutes les 5 minutes pour faire un mini-résumé, ou est-ce qu'on y va?
You can put your hand up if you need a translation at a certain time.
On peut faire voilà, une espèce de vote.
I'll give you plenty of opportunity.
So they don't need me. So now it's you.
Thank you very much for the invitation to be here. I will introduce myself or the anti-library as we go along, but I just wanted to start with something. Recently, I had 2 interesting conversations. Can you hear at the back? The first, I was at dinner in North Wales with a friend from architecture school. He was now a partner in a firm of over 50 employees. As he walked past my 600-year-old cottage, he remarked, "I wish I could get the passion back. I wish architecture could have remained what it was when we were at school. I wish it were that simple to help and change people's lives." He paused. I had never heard him so intimate. I wish I could still solve problems, use a drawing board, and feel satisfied. Now, every day, I am worried we are going to get sued. Every day, I asked? Every day, it's become so passionless. He went on to explain what design build meant to him and his firm in South London. Ultimately, either the practice rubber-stamped a project or provided a digitally prepared diagram for the planning department. The importance was in the looseness and ambiguity of the diagram. He specifically used the word diagram, not drawing, which for him was something gold from his past. He hadn't been excellent at school, but he had been solid, very solid. This diagram, he said, then allows contractors to build it with as much creative economy and fakery they can muster. Sometimes, he continued with a wry smile, we are invited back to improve the diagram given by another architect. We then tweak it without altering the approved external image and massing. The result, he added, is always devastatingly boring. Boredom, to be interesting, needs slyness. It didn't even have that. His eyes glazed over. He kept reliving the idea that this is not what we studied for. I looked at him. Was time to stop at the moment we trained for architecture in 1968, 40 years ago, when we entered university, wet behind the ears? Was it to end in 1971 with a first degree, or later with the professional degree? I chose not this path. But this was not anger. This was a contemporary fatigue, a coerced resignation. This practice in South London had no use for paper architecture, for ideas, for the games of the journals. As an architect, he was so far away from this that it seemed we were splitting into another profession entirely. There was fame, artifice, rock star architects, and virtual reality. And then there were ordinances, regulations, and a physical reality. Yet the architectural practice had 3 partners and a host of CAD monkeys. The world was not hated, but it was unsteady. Perhaps golf, GPS gadgets in new Volvos, and Guinness helped the pain. This was not a zero, but what was it? This was a reality that could not award anything to the unbuildable and the utopian. Anything radical sent a shiver down their spine. It had become a world without pain, but on his face, it was not and could never be painless. Architecture was in his blood, and he no longer knew why or whether he wanted it. Mark explained a little bit of the background to some of my work. What I've chosen tonight is to take you through what I'm calling the anti-library. And it started probably in 1991 when I did a very big book, 464 pages, and it won a huge award, and it took me to what you now know as the Starchitects Circus, but it took me to meeting people who were not particularly famous at the time, but who were scurrying around in a way trying to be famous, I guess. And that was, so I found myself with people like Daniel Liebeskind, Frank Gehry, Herzog, Peter Eisenman, Elizabeth Diller, and I sort of wondered what I was really doing there. And I was invited to many conferences on the strength of this book, which was actually called Writing Architecture, and we'll come back to that. And I got to the point where I really couldn't continue what I felt was a kind of a personal fakery. So, 1991, I was invited to a conference in the Hotel Colón in Barcelona. And the letter came from Peter Eisenman, and some of you know Ignacy de Sola de Morales. And it said that we'd like you to come, and you are scheduled, and the list was there, and I was scheduled to speak after Raphael Moneo, before Jacques Derrida, and the end was Rem Koolhaas. And I thought, what the hell am I going to do here? So I started writing my conferences, my lectures, as poetry. And I did the first poem in the 20-minute presentation for that conference. It was called the ENI Conference, 1991 in Barcelona. And I did it as a poem. Eventually those poems were published, and I'll perhaps talk about that later. But the interesting thing was that when I'd finished the 20 minutes, Peter Eisenman came up to me and sort of looked me in the eye and said, "I think we'll be hearing more about you." And I said, "Peter, I don't think you will." And from then onwards, I wanted to write the anti-library. The type of texts that I couldn't get published, the type of texts that would alter the writing about architecture. I really do believe in this phrase, change communication, change architecture. So from that series of poems, which became a book published by MIT Press, Welcome to the Hotel Architecture, was a series of, it's an epic poem about the philosophy of postmodernism and deconstruction and things. And it has many architects, and they're attending the conference called Dittography. Dittography, from the word ditto, means to repeat, to repeat. So they were attending a conference on repetition. But the architects were so passionately involved in discussing amongst themselves that they didn't realize the exit. They were looking for the exit to the hotel, but they didn't realize the exit was through the swimming pool. So, of course, they never actually got out. So the discourse just went on, and that became Welcome to the Hotel Architecture. So let me read the second. I will intersperse this with readings. So I said I had one conversation. The second conversation was with a talented young academic practicing architecture. He had told me of his choice to avoid wasting his time talking to young friends, potential clients, about the type of McMansion they desire in Texas. Hedge fund specialists, venture capitalists, frat boy adventurers, Bud Light drinkers. They need the 3 SUV garage, the pool hall, their own Aqualand, and the latest edition, their own plasma screen cinema. Instead, this young architect has decided to announce that he only takes on commissions with a contemporary look. By this, we are already speaking in code. We mean everything these young clients, these young venture capitalists, do not want. These potential wealthy clients may share his interest in computer gaming, in the latest gaming software, the films of David Cronenberg and George Lucas, the books of William Gibson, Dave Eggers, and Stephen Hawking. But they wish not for a house that looks anything but traditional. That they are clear about. He has, he told me, more and more conversations about what this means. But he has less and less jobs. He may, he says, with a smile, be forced to remain in teaching. Is this another degree zero to wait within the university until the outside world changes? Until the wind blows over and new insight arrives? We'd wait a long time. Outside, the risk-averse environment is obvious. The wind blows in ways we don't understand anymore. Past and present education collides. We stare at the mirror of our own history. History is last week, or even yesterday. What happens if, interestingly, the corporate, conventional, and formulaic direction of the profession of architecture sees its own development and control with no echo? Would this answer market conditions, the strategies of a neoconservative, neoliberal democracy? Or are we waiting until Francis Fukuyama takes back his words? And we all need another guru. Remember the theory so quickly, the soundbite, the end of history. That's not mine, is it? Who really took it back to Hegel and Marx? Would this also be another zero? Just who amongst us then might be redundant? Older professors or younger microserfs? And just how much architecture, if we can call it that, will go on being built by those we consider, in our arrogance and hubris, have no right to be called architects? And what would the consequences of this be to a school of architecture? Umberto Eco talks about something he calls the anti-library, and it's with this echo that I'm thinking about the anti-library, which is, at home I have a library of about 7,000 or 8,000 books, but there are about, obviously, 1,000, 1,500 or so unread. But the unread is also the anti-library. It's the knowledge that is waiting there. It's waiting to be read. We don't know in what way we will take it. We don't know what way we will come to that. But that is, for me, is the anti-library. It's the knowledge that's sitting out there, waiting for a certain moment, a spark. It can happen to all of us in any ways, and suddenly something makes sense from the past to the future at that moment. And this is what I thought about in terms of the anti-library. So when I started teaching in Carlton, most of you who are teachers here know if you get involved in teaching, you also get involved in a lot of administration, and then you end up not being able to write long books and do research. So I decided that whilst I was director of the graduate school, I would produce 10 small books called the Anti-Library. And slowly I'm going to read from at least 6 of these. I'm up to number 7, and I've got about 4 months to go before I finish my job, and that will be the Anti-Library complete. How they started was students heard this lecture and decided to publish it themselves, which I think was a very, very positive move. So it all started with a book called Architecture Degree Zero, with obvious echoes back to Roland Barthes and back to writing Degree Zero. But it became such that some of you know regular publishers. It takes a long time to bring books out these days, and generally they go through a lot of committees. So I met one of the publishers from Princeton Architectural Press, and I said I was doing this, and he said, well, really you're doing the work for us, because you're producing a series of books, and then we can take the best of them at the end. So so the idea is that all these 10 books will go along to the publisher, and they'll cross out and edit, and all the bits that they don't want in the book will be taken out, and then they will have a book, the Anti-Library. But it won't be, it'll be the Anti-Library, of course, because they'll take things out of it. So I just want to tell you the titles of the books, and then we'll go on. Architecture Degree Zero, Pulp Architecture, The House for de Kooning's Friend, Alter Ego, The Irresponsible Self, The Brautigan. How many of you here have heard of Richard Brautigan? Not one, 2 people in the whole room have heard of Richard Brautigan. That's a great start. So I think you should read The Brautigan. The book that's coming out next week is called Life After Architecture. I'm really not sure there is one, frankly. But so I'm going to now move on to